My name's Pam. I've only recently joined the church. I've realised that we all journey through life different ways with different people, and the two most important people on my journey were my mother and my granddaughter. I was born in 1944 to an unwed mother during a time when that was seen as moral corruption, and lots of people were separated forcibly from their babies. Some even ended up in institutions. My mother worked for Cadbury's in the middle of Birmingham, in a slum area which had been bombed. She was bright but uneducated. A woman in Cadbury's, who I think had some status there, said to my mother, "If you let me have your baby, I will set you up in a shop so you don't have to work in a factory and your career will be made." On the day she was discharged from hospital and my mother went home, backstreet slum house, crowded with people, my grandfather, who was a man I understand with some insight, cleared everyone out and said, "Doris, you must do what's in your heart. Whichever route you choose is going to be very, very hard, but it's your choice." A chauffeur from Cadbury's was waiting at the top of the yard. Someone went up and told him that the baby wasn't going to be delivered, and the woman from Cadbury's contacted my mother and said, "You will never ever work in any of Cadbury's establishments again." And I can understand her disappointment. She'd seen my mother all through the pregnancy, and it must have been awful for her, but that was the decision my mother made. Life was very, very hard. There was no help in those days for unwed mothers. She would office clean from 6 till 8, work in a factory on a press from 8 till 6, and then work again in an office from 6 till 8 just to put food on the table. So for her, it was a very rough time. When I was 11, I passed the 11 plus. I didn't know what it meant. I hadn't got a clue, but I was told I'd passed this 11 plus. My mother received a letter to say, "We don't think your daughter should be allocated a grammar school place because of your living conditions and because of your status." That was basically referring to her unwed birth. My mother was an enormous respecter of authority and in fear of it. And throughout my whole childhood, I was told that the Ed man was coming, the Ed man. And I grew up with visions of a floating head for many, many years. But she said to me, "We're going to see the Ed man. If you want to go to this school, you should go to this school." And she saw her local MP, which was a remarkably brave thing that she did. She explained the situation. He understood. He was a man of some humanity. Within a month, we'd been rehoused from the slums into a brand new flat on the outskirts of Birmingham. In addition, in the letter telling us that, there was a grant for the full school uniform. I can only think that Jesus was walking with us at that time, must have been, and to keep us safe throughout those turbulent years of my growing up. I went to grammar school. I left at 16. I didn't want to stay on for O-levels. I went on a business course, a 2-year business course at college when I was then 16 and a half, 17, where I met my future husband. John was very charismatic, Mensa brilliant. I didn't realise it at the time, but he had no moral compass at all, absolutely none. His parents were very middle class. They didn't approve of me, a girl from the slums. Every Sunday they would go to Church of England, absolutely solid Church of England. One Sunday, whilst they were out, there was a knock on the door, and it was Jehovah's Witnesses. John invited them in. They spent a couple of hours there. The next time he saw me, he told me, "We're going to become Jehovah's Witnesses." I hadn't got a thought of my own in my head at that point, and I became a Jehovah's witness, knocking on doors and reading the Watchtower. I can't remember anything, learning anything during that time about a journey with Christ. All I can remember is you mustn't, all sorts of, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that. I was baptised, along with 1,000 others, in a huge outdoor pool in Edinburgh. Again, I hadn't got a clue at that stage what it meant. We got married, had a child far too soon. I was in the hospital, and the brethren came to see me in the hospital and said, "You must bring this child up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses." And I said, "I can't do that. I just can't do that. That's got to be her choice. I'm not doing that." So basically I was excommunicated. By that time, the novelty for John had worn off anyway, and he wasn't interested. The next 16 years of the marriage were problematic, to say the least. He didn't want a child. He had no interest in his daughter. He had no interest in providing an income. So I thought, if we're going to survive, I've got to do something. And I applied for a Home Office post as a probation officer and went on a 2-year course, which was successful. And then I became employed as a probation officer. At the time, I didn't realise during those years that I was devoting all my time to other people and other people's problems, neglecting my daughter, and I just didn't see it. All I thought was necessary was to make sure that we were warm, we were safe, we were fed, and I had sufficient income for us both. So I got completely lost during those years, to her detriment. She, looking back now, I can understand where she was coming from. She married a man 30 years older than herself, older than me, far too old. And she became pregnant after they were married, and she gave birth to Angela, my granddaughter, who's the most precious person in my life. And Angela and I were very, very close together when she was growing up. What I didn't know, because Angela didn't tell me, and my daughter said, "Don't tell Nana," was that her mother was involved with an incredibly violent partner who was constantly abusing her. Told her, it sounds like something out of EastEnders, but I can assure you it was true. He told her that if she reported him to the police, he would set fire to the flat with Angela in it. Angela ran away at 15, joined the fair. And I spent several weekends following the fair around the country, letting her know that I was there when she was ready to come back. It was just coming to September when the colleges started their intake, and on that weekend, and again, I can see Christ's hand here, because she came back with me. She went to college. She eventually moved into her accommodation. How I didn't lose her to the streets, I don't know, after everything that she'd been through. She joined the army as soon as she could, when she just turned 18, just to get away from it all. Unfortunately, history tends to repeat itself, and she met a predatory sergeant who was 14 years her senior, who got her pregnant. She married him, and 16 years of a dreadful, dreadful controlling marriage, disinterested marriage. She finally found the resources and the strength to leave him, and God's hand, I know, was in this, in the next stage of Angela's life, because she met Tarek. Tarek is her partner, and she and Tarek have found Christianity together. They lost a child, both became very depressed, but they did set out on a determined journey, basically researching all the world religions, finding nothing, just coldness in many of them, until one day they went into just a very small, unassuming Methodist church, and Angela said she felt something that she couldn't describe, but it was very powerful, it was overwhelming, and from that point on she identified herself as a Christian. She's been baptised, both of them have been baptised in a river, full immersion. During all this time, Angela and I were talking to each other, we were supporting each other, we were always there for each other. I was very, very, very interested in the change in her life that Christ had brought. It was nothing short of a miracle to me after everything she'd been through. To see her so happy it was just unbelievably reassuring. And I said to her one day, I've just gone down St Mary Church Road in Torquay, because she lives in Sunderland, and there's an Alpha sign outside. And she said, oh Nan, do go, please, promise you you'll go on the course. And I did. I made the appropriate arrangements. The first thing happened when I got in was that Michelle and Diane greeted me and were so warm and welcoming. All the fear and intimidation I'd felt about actually going was just swept away in a moment, basically. And I loved the Alpha course, the people that I met, the things I learned, the passion of Simon. It just all fell into place with me, and I began to feel an inner peace, definitely. I went on another Alpha course and I began attending church. At first I just sat at the back as anonymous as I could be. Now I've moved down to as close to the front row as I can get, and it's completely changed my life. 2 Alpha courses, and I was still struggling with, was I good enough to be baptised? Did I know enough to be baptised? And it was keeping me awake at night. And I knew that was the next step, but I just didn't see myself as good enough. A few weeks ago, I woke up in the middle of the night suddenly from a deep sleep, and I thought, it's not how much I know, it's how much I believe, it's how much faith I've got. It's not a case of whether I'm good enough, because Christ died for our sins. And that was what led me to where I am today. And I'm so delighted to be a member of Upton Vale. Every week when I go, there's an all-encompassing warm feeling as soon as you walk in. I'm proud to be a member of Upton Vale congregation, and I'm looking forward to baptism. Simon has agreed that Angela can be in the pool with me, so she and Tarek have made the long journey from, or will make the long journey from Durham to be there, and then they've got to turn around and go back. And that, to me, having Angela there means the world. God bless Angela. I love you. Michelle brought me this. She went when I was very, very new. She went without my knowledge. She went all the way to Dartmouth on a very, very busy day. The girls never still, as you know. and she brought back two, one for Angela and one for me. I'm sitting opposite my fireplace, and it's in my sight, in my eye line, every time I come in here. Thank you, Michelle. This is a constant reminder. And you've put the path to the cross, Jeremiah 29:11. So that's always with me.
Absolutely brilliant.